I'm only commenting on what's in the show since I haven't read the books. So I just felt like the character was incredibly flat. What's up, you guys? My name is Billy Wayne, and I'm going to be your host for today on episode 5 of the Pictures Up podcast. Now, as I'm sure everybody knows, season 2 of Altered Carbon just came out on Netflix not too long ago. I had the opportunity to watch it all the way through, and I've got mixed feelings about it. I wouldn't say it's great, but I'm not going to say it's terrible either. There's good parts and there's bad parts, so let's go ahead and dive on into it. Let's start with the fight choreography. Now, it's still really good, same as season 1. The only thing I kind of didn't like about it was it felt a little bit more stylized than season 1 did, but at the same time, I still liked it. I thought it was really well done. Playing off of the fight choreography aspect, the action was also still really good in general. There's a couple of parts that were a little weird, but we'll get to that in a minute. But overall, really well done. So the last thing I'm going to talk about with things that I like about season 2 is going to be Poe's character. So in season 1, he had a really compelling arc. I feel like he really fulfilled it through the course of season 1. Season 2, it still continues on. It's like, his arc came down and he had a complete arc, and then now he did it again. And I just think he's a really well-written character. He's definitely the strongest out of all the other ones in season 2. The only thing that I would have really worked on with him would have been some of the dialogue can get a little sketchy, but his is by far the best. He just performs it really well, and he's definitely my favorite character of season 2. So with season 2, there's a lot of things I didn't like. First and foremost is the dialogue. The dialogue is horribly written. It's completely filled with exposition and just things that you wouldn't hear people say in real life. And I realize that it's way in the future, but it's like still the concept of there's a way that people talk, and I don't feel like that really captured it. It definitely didn't do as good as season 1. Now, season 1 still had a little bit of exposition in it. They had to. You gotta have exposition somewhere with a storyline that's that complex. But with season 2, the problem was there was too much. They forgot about the idea of show, don't tell. They told a lot over and over and over. And there were definitely a few times where they were, telling us something where they could have been showing it instead. I think it would have been much more effective to have shown some of these things happening. The next thing that I'm going to gripe about with season 2 would be the characters. With the exception of Poe, they are all incredibly flat. I don't feel a connection really to any of them except for Poe. Poe is the only bright spot in all the characters. He's the only good one, in my opinion. Now, that says nothing about the actors. I thought Anthony Mackie did a good job with what he was given. The writers definitely didn't do him any favors, and I think the direction was pretty lacking too. I was kind of worried about it, when we get different actors playing the same character after a different actor had already established the tone of the character and his behavior and his mannerisms. And we didn't really see any of that with this. Anthony Mackie, I don't think he had a whole lot to go off of when it came to trying to recreate the Kovash from season 1. And I get that, it's 30 years in the future, but you still expect to see some things that are still the same. And, I didn't see it. I thought they did the character of Kel a pretty big disservice too. She was better. She wasn't as bad as some of the other ones, but I wanted more, I guess. But the actress is really good. The actress did a really good job. Another thing I really didn't like about season 2 was that they had a lot of gimmicky callbacks to season 1. Like they knew season 2 wasn't as good, and they did some pickups to make up for it. Like, hey, you remember this really cool thing in season 1? Yeah, well, that's here too. Like, make sure to pay attention to that. And it just kind of felt like they were leading me by the hand to come to the conclusion that they wanted me to come to. And I don't like that. I like to come to my own conclusions. And I felt like season 1 didn't do quite as bad of a job of that. They tied up a bunch of loose ends at the end of season 1, just in case they didn't get it renewed for a second season. But I felt like they could have saved that for season 2, but I get it. Now, when it comes to which episode I hated the most as far as dialogue is concerned, episode 3 is hands down the worst. It was really, really cliched, really flat. It was kind of cringeworthy to sit through it. But, I get that every episode can't be, super exciting. But, watching season 1, I never felt bored. And in season 2, there were a few times where I felt bored. Specifically, episode 3. Episode 3 was terrible. So for the most part, the effects are still really on point. But there's a few that were really, really bad. And one of them I definitely need to touch on. There's a part where they're like in a car and the background, like of the lights flashing past, looks horrible. It looks like it's at a completely different frame rate than what they were filming in. And it was pretty bad. You'll know what I mean when you see it. So season 2 is like a real slow burn. The first half of the season is pretty slow, but it's tolerable. And then the second half of the season really lights on fire, and then it starts getting pretty exciting. So the second half of the season I don't have as many gripes with. I actually enjoyed it. I thought the ending was really good, even though we saw it coming. Overall, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, it's not fantastic. It's not season 1. Season 1 was damn near perfect. Season 2 is just tolerable. Now, had it not picked up halfway through the season and gotten really interesting, I would have said this season sucks. It would have been horrible. I'd have rated it 2 out of 10. But since the second half of the season picks up and gets a lot more interesting, I'm going to go ahead and give it 5 out of 10, maybe a 6 out of 10. So let's go ahead and say 5.5 out of 10, which to me is a good one-time watch. What did you think of season 2 of Altered Carbon? Let us know in the comments. And make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any new episodes, which come out every single Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And make sure to follow us on social media, which is linked in the description down below. Thanks guys, and we'll see you next week.